What's going on, everyone? Sid Gordon here with the Core Medical Podcast with my buddy Mel Chansey back in town. And we have a special guest today, huge Core Medical supporter. We're a big supporter of this gentleman as well. He's a true gentleman. And Chuck, thanks for coming on. Mel, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
I appreciate you guys having me, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's cool to be here with you, Chuck, right? And not in South Carolina or at the Core Medical events, right?
Hey,
right.
Man, you're a little less
chaotic.
Chaotic. That's right.
Yeah. So Chuck got in yesterday, and we went down to Founders Gun Range. It's a gun club. We got to have an amazing dinner and do a little bit of chatting, and it was a blast, man. Thanks for driving down, dude. It's I mean, a lot of people do this through Zoom, and it's always important to me when people go out of their way and come face to face, because it's always way nicer like this, But Chuck, give us a quick background on yourself, where you came from, what your come up was like, and the more information, the better.
Right on. Well, I'm a Carolina boy, born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. Grew up at a really young age. Started swimming. In fact, my aunt was a swim coach up in Michigan and had me televised. I was about 3 months old, man, in the pool with no floaties.
Really?
So, that kind of kicked a lot of my my love for water off, So did some swimming for a while and then got into martial arts as my 4th birthday present, and, been pretty much running down those two avenues for, well, my whole life.
Yeah.
And bro, that's why we get along so good, because now you're telling me about the swimming part, and everybody knows here that I'm a big advocate of the pool.
No, you're not a swimmer. You float.
You
kind of move around slowly.
I'm just lounging in the
he's
pool.
like a good swimmer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I could do that too, but I'm in the lounge. But the love for water is there, right, bro?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, military background.
Correct. I served in the United States Marine Corps.
Talk to us about that a little bit.
That was some of the best times and some of the worst times, but the core discipline, the core aspects of the Marine Corps were so invaluable to me, even though during the time I didn't really understand the why behind it. Later on, understanding, obviously, being in combat, having to apply every last skill that you were ever, trained in, and even more.
Why did you decide to join?
Long lineage of Marines in my family, grandfathers, uncles, father. It was kind of predestined for me to go in, and my father being who he is, of course, he told me, you're never going to make it. You got the old Corps, the new Corps, and that shit they got now. You might fit into that. Well, of course, me being the belligerent bastard I was, I'm definitely going to do it, and I'm going to do it right. So was meritoriously promoted every single one of my ranks, meritoriously demoted one of them. But, hey, you live and you learn. How
many years, brother, were you over there? Were you serving?
8 years.
8, yeah.
So you were at Parris Island for boot camp?
I sure was, man. We get all those big bad boys from the north and, a couple from the Midwest, and they roll in there, man, and they just cannot handle that Buford, that Parris Island humidity and the sand fleas and all that good stuff, man. I mean, you spend a good bit of time there, and I'll tell you what, that heat, that humidity, and then the psychological jar of you are nothing.
Yeah.
We are going to break you down, and we are going to rebuild you into what we want you to be. There are no individuals here. You are all, well, at that time, recruits. You are hoping and striving to become a Marine. And once you become a Marine, there is no difference. You're not a man, you're not a woman, you're not white, brown, black, purple. It doesn't matter. You're a United States Marine, you have taskings at hand, and you will go forth and rain hell down on anybody that messes with our country.
What'd you do for them? What was your MOS?
I started out, believe it or not, being a little shithead as a kid, and that's kind of why skipped over a bunch of my past. We don't need to go into all that.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can if you want.
Yeah, no.
We know about being shitheads, Sydney and myself.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, when you got a loving mother as I do, and she calls her brother, who was also a United States Marine in Vietnam, and says, "I'm shipping him out to Texas to you." Yeah, you know, you're kind of going down the wrong path, and that was a big step as well for me going into the Marine Corps. Was living out with my uncle, because he didn't play any games. He was very loving and compassionate, very God-fearing man. He was actually in the seminary, and then left the seminary to go become a Marine in Vietnam. And so there were a lot of positive aspects in the male role model field that I wasn't receiving
Gotcha.
at home. And so that brought a lot of good light into the Marine Corps as well. So
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar situation. I was like 14 or 15 when my dad took off, and you know, I was looking back on it now, reflecting, right? Because to get better, we have to look at our worst days, right? And focus on being 1% better each day, right? And analyzing what we're good at and what we're bad at, and trying to get better at the stuff that we're bad at. You know,
Right,
Mel, you
yeah.
probably understand.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of work there. And my pivotal point to getting in trouble and doing bad things was definitely the loss of having both my parents together, I think. I mean, Mel, you came from a really strong household,
Yeah.
but you just got, you just made
Yeah, I just took to seeing the dead end street and wanted to run down it for a while, you know. Which gets us back to the structure thing that I'm saying. So, you know, me and Sydney being not coming from a military, we didn't serve ourselves, but he was surrounded by a military background. Of course, me too. My father was in the Korean War. My uncle in Vietnam, and all my cousins went to Afghanistan and Desert Storm. You know, like Sydney said, I seen the inside of the federal system, but through the prisons, right? But that structure is amazing. How I see it. I mean, they can take the most broken youngster, right, and show them that and that environment and that structure is so important. You know.
well, and if you can take the lessons learned that the military in general, I'm not just going to speak about the Marine Corps, because I've had the honor and privilege of serving with every single branch, serving with members of every single branch. And there's a consistency across the board when it comes to the structure, to holding yourself to a higher standard. Now, a lot of it, like I was saying, the why behind it wasn't really expressed as much as I would have liked it. I did luck out and had a gunny, and he changed my whole perspective on everything, because he not only told us what to do, he showed us how to do it. He expected excellence, but in that excellence, he also expected you to know the why. Why do we shut our mouth and breathe through our nose? Well, I don't know, because you told me to. That's not the answer. It's because it's delivering more oxygen, you know, to your lungs. You know, just little minute things like that. And when you start understanding that why, especially within the structure, you understand the structure is there to support you, to give you the best success possible. And that was just huge for me. And ever since then, you know, that whole why aspect was.
So what was your role?
Well, like I was saying, been a little shithead. I had to join the Marine Corps as a reserve cook.
Okay.
And at the time, everybody's like, dude, did we even have a school for cooks? And they were like, yeah, it's right next to the sewing Marines. And I'm like, you got to be, what, dude? All right, now y'all are
At
screwing
least you got to
me.
look at the girls at least a little bit, right?
What's that?
You got to look at the girls sewing then at least. Just kidding.
Actually, believe it or not, it was a real MOS.
Okay.
It was for repairing our GP medium, our GP tents,
Okay.
parachutes, all that
Okay.
good
I thought
stuff.
you meant sewing like the clothing.
Yeah.
You know, in the Marine Corps being the, I guess you could say, redheaded bastard stepchild. I mean, I could go on for days of the military. We had to be so self-contained and sustainable. Outside of the clergy and medical, we cover things that the rest of the military doesn't. So yeah, I went in. That was my only way in. I said, you know what, man, I'll work my way up. So I did hit a couple deployments. Got out in 2007 officially, and switched over to a reserve component, and that'll go a little more into my my next career field. But left Bravo Company 4th Recon Battalion, and went over to go make some money.
Yeah.
You know, while
Contracting?
Yep, you nailed it. I mean, back in that time, things were still hot and heavy, and a lot of guys were looking to get out. They didn't care for that structure, and I'm a firm believer it's because they didn't understand the why. Once again, behind it. Yet I was kind of sick and tired of the day-to-day bump and grind, the constant deployments. You know, you're going to deploy, you're going to come back, and you're just going to spin up for the next deployment. I mean, it was just it was nonstop, and the money looked good. And I'll be the first one to say I went for the money, and you know.
A lot of guys get into the private contracting. It seems like that we have met in our time.
We
right?
have. I mean, you have Adam Blackwater.
Yep.
He was big on that triple canopy.
Yeah.
Just with a guy this past weekend took gator hunting. We did contract work for 8 years, with triple canopy, and both of the groups I just said, and you know you're making $20,000 a month versus $1,600.
Well, you know, my first push over, I was actually on a state contract, and I'm riding over, and this old salty dog, you know, he's sitting there, and I'm like, okay, he's definitely not in the military anymore. So I said, you know, sir, you a contractor? And he told me, you know, what agency he was contracting for and everything. He said, they paying you $500? I said, a little bit more. He goes, you need to ask for more. I won't even step foot on the plane for under $500 a day. Now, this is coming from, you know, a corporal sergeant, you know, aspect for years, getting paid nothing.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And looking at $500 a day is, dude, you don't even get out of bed for less than $500 a day. You know, so it's very sexy. And he told me, he said, you know, you really need to save your money. I said, oh, I'm going to. He said, no, you won't. He said, because the more money you make, the more money you're going to spend. I'm like, you know, this guy has been right about a bunch of things, but he's wrong about that. And you know what? He was absolutely right, man. I went berserk. Let me tell you, when, you know, getting over there, being able to meet a lot of the cats that have been there for a while. I mean, they were there since the Bridges of Fallujah, you know, time frame. Man, they've had some leave days, you know, and the word goes around on all the good spots to hit, you know, and went to Australia, man, and nailed out about 20 grand in a month in Australia, you know, because I had it like that.
Yeah, no bueno. I mean, listen, we've all been there to spend. I mean, you were getting handfuls of cash, weren't you, Mel?
Yeah, back in the day, I was 23, 24 years old, and, you know, a decent month for me was 15, 20 grand back in the day, of course.
Which is like 100 grand now.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Cash.
Right,
You know? Not to age you, Mel.
Of course, of course, I'm 54. Of course, illegally, right? So when you're that young, and that's why I never wanted to gig. You know, I always say with, you know, my 30-something-year friend Hulk Hogan is paving the way for me to get into WCW. Come on, I'm going to make you the heavyweight champ of the world. I'm laying the red carpet out for you, and I go, but you need me to show up, right? He goes, oh, yeah, man, we're only home a couple days a month. I'm like, I'm going to tap. I'm good what I'm doing, you know, because I didn't have to punch a clock. But, you know, going back to a story that Sidney always tells, when he was coming up in the business ranks too, you know, and all of a sudden started making more money than he probably should ever had and stuff. And he got the sit down from one of our good friends, you know, our friend JP, and told him, hey, knock it off. Go sell that car, get rid of that watch, and you know, you start making that money, and you get caught up in that glitz and glamour a little bit, right? Until you realize that that's not that ain't the important stuff, right?
Absolutely, you know, and with those opportunities, you know, people always say, if I knew now what I knew then what I know now. Well, you know what? You wouldn't have made those dumb decisions. You wouldn't have created those messes, and that's something very big with me. I was speaking with a mutual friend of ours, Marcus Torgerson, and
Great guy.
He told me one day, he said, man, you know, I love what you're doing now because you're taking your past mess and turning it into, or taking the lessons learned from your past mess, turning it into your present message. And that's beautiful, bro.
Yeah, that's
You
pretty
know?
dope.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that kind of stuck with me. And it definitely speaks to a mindset shift that a lot of people haven't done or have done a little bit of, but should dive a little deeper into. And that a lot of that comes into forgiveness as well, you know, for things.
Well, I mean, I tell people all the time that, you know, I mentor a few people per year and working with a guy right now. And, man, he's hard on himself. You know what I mean? He's super duper hard on himself. He like has this, ability to like really come up with great ideas, but doesn't have the ability to jump off the ledge and really create, right? Because it's scary. Like for me, I've had some amazing success. So Mel, probably the same. You know, if tomorrow you took everything from me, I know how to rebuild it now again. I have that confidence. I have that ability.
Yeah.
But to do it the first time is probably the hardest thing. I mean, you had to have some fear in you when you got out of prison, and you're saying to yourself, "What the fuck am I going to do now?"
Yeah.
Right. But if you act right and your word is good, opportunities come. Because as a business owner now, all I'm looking for is loyalty and coachability, because that's all I need. Right. I know if you're going to be loyal and you're going to put your time in and you're going to work your ass off, like, and stay coachable. You got a checkbox. I mean,
over here, and we see it so much over here. And you know, you've been part of our team for the last few years now. You know, with Core and stuff like that, and we see it because he, on the work side of everything, which Sydney runs. You know, when we get a new guy coming in, a new intake order, and that's what he's looking for, right? If I bring the person in, I tell him, here he is. He's on you now. You know, Sid's looking over him. And that's so important to watch somebody be like that, be coachable and ready to learn, that humbleness, you know, and then you're getting some good life lessons from what he went through, some good life lessons from what I went through on the other side, you know. So I always say over here at Core Medical, we become a family so quick because we're all sharing them experiences with one another, and and then some people come to the team that don't make the cut, right? They're just not ready for that part of the journey yet, as I say. Them doesn't make them a bad person. They're just not ready to understand all that and like learn, right? We're all learning. I'm 54 and I'm still learning about things. I just, I don't even know how to make the iced coffee that we got this morning from Sequella, right?
He doesn't even know how to order the iced coffee.
I don't know how to order it.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're all learning, and I think when you're learnable, you're humble, no matter what age, right? That goes a long way, right? And then we don't know everything in life, right?
Absolutely, always the student, right? Always the student.
That's the truth. So tell us what you're doing now. What's going on when you got out of the military? Give us a nice high level of what happened then and where you're at now.
Contracted for a few years, 2011, came back stateside, said hell with it, still had a little bit of time that I owed the Marine Corps. Wasn't sure if I wanted to go back in, went and did an evolution with them and said hell no. I understood what the new Corps was all about, type thing. So I dilly-dallied a little bit, had a buddy of mine call me from Columbia, South Carolina. I didn't know that. He hit me up asking what I was doing. I told him. He said, well, I'm in Columbia. You want to come work for me? And I said, South America. He said, no, South Carolina. And I was like, oh, well, shit, yeah, So went up there, spun up a security team for him for a little bit, and then came down, worked on the weapons station in Charleston for a little bit, working with their security division there. And then linked up with a training company based out of Charleston. We had an old high school that was our urban training center. We had a couple 1,000-meter ranges out there. So that really kicked it into high gear when it came into the instructor aspect. Both of my parents are educators, so anything I ever did, even as a child, it was never good enough in my father's eyes, so it was never good enough in my eyes. So what's better than doing is teaching, right? Appease dad and that. So I really enjoyed the instructor aspect because we trained everybody from the Boy Scouts, no kidding, to tier level units all the way up. Civilians, law enforcement, government agencies, military, you name it, we trained them.
Was it urban combat or?
It was everything from like woodland. Oh my gosh, land nav.
Yeah,
Why did I forget land nav? Oh my gosh, the one thing that, oh my gosh, land nav.
I feel like you were good at that.
Yes, land nav. We did a lot of shooting packages, obviously, but the owner of the company worked for BW as well, and he was an EOD guy, so he loved to make things go, you know, and had a lot of friends in the state law enforcement division, so we trained their bomb squad a lot.
Nice.
We had 160th come in and breach the roof one time, dropping the birds in our backyard, which was the old sports field out in the back, the old baseball fields and all that stuff. So, you know, we're in a small town and nobody has a clue what we are. You know, we're CIA, NSA, DIA. We're the freaking whole alphabet to them. All they know is these spooky dudes rolling in with helos, and these guys are always running around our town, you know, guns, and we hear stuff blowing up. And so whatever, it must be 9 o'clock. They're starting training, you know, type thing. So I kicked around in that field, became the training director for the company, and met a lot of valuable assets throughout that within their respective realms, but also learned a lot, man. Learned so much working with SEALs, with SF dudes, with MARSOC dudes, 160th. Oh, I learned stuff from the Boy Scouts, man. I'm an Eagle Scout myself.
Oh, nice.
You know, and then hanging out with some of these young bucks, man, and seeing them grow up and then coming out and, you know, being with the cool guys and everything, you know, that was very satisfying. And one of the most satisfying, if I may, things that I did while I was there, I was defensive tactics. I led basically all the defensive tactics there. And I developed what's called a small frame self-defense course that I would only teach to women and children. And we had a woman, she was in the Marine Corps. She was working over for an NGO in Africa. And the abuse,
not the best place then.
Yes, the abuse of the women and the children over there, how they're just used as objects. We'll leave it at that. It was vital for her to take back something that she could teach them. So I was able to work with her, and you know, I saw some of the fruits of the labor, man. But when I was able to do something, not a direct action type mission or anything like that, you know, that's the sexy stuff, but more of your soft skills, and then disseminating, being a force multiplier basically, and disseminating that over to Africa, to so many women and children that hopefully
she was training her. She brought it over there and taught the course over there.
Yeah, man, and
that was pretty cool.
I would get video calls and stuff like that, you know. Hi, sir. Thank you so much. Wonderful.
Oh,
you
really?
know? And man,
it goes a long way, right?
Yeah, it's big stuff, man.
You know, one thing I you know, it sucks for me as being a convicted felon. We were talking about it earlier. I can't participate in the guns and the shootings and the courses that we do, but you know, being around Sydney for the last 6 years, you know, great avid hunter. You know, when I got around him, you know, gun fanatic, avid hunter. But watching the relationship with him and all the different people that have been in our lives with Corps Medical, the Special Forces guys, you know, the Jason Redmonds and the Codys, yourself and everything, it's cool to see that. And every, you know, I watch him take a piece out of something. You know, he learns something from everybody that's been around, you know. Watch it grow. I watch the stuff and stuff like that, but, you know, I can't participate. But it's cool to see that, you know, and how I watched him grow in that, and you know how close we got to our military and veterans and stuff. It's just been an amazing journey for us.
I mean, the crazy part is that, like, man, I'd say minus dealing with the changes in the laws and maybe some hiccups internally at core. The hardest thing probably to do is break down that barrier and get so tight with all these war heroes and all these amazing veterans. I mean, because it was hard to get in that door, dude. It wasn't easy. Like, between Vincent Rocco Vargas, Dave, and
Nick Kay. Early on.
Hell yeah. I mean, he was huge. I mean, it took, having Cody and, now Byron, it took getting to like those military celebrities almost for anyone to even take us seriously.
Yeah.
And I knew that there was such a benefit there, and there was no other clinics, which we can talk about in a second. There was such huge benefits for these guys because I knew what type of treatment because of Jarbo, what they were getting at the VA. And I was like, damn, the VA is contributing to these suicides.
And I think you heard when last year when I was telling a story, the previous 2 years at our military appreciation weekend, we had to jump through a lot of hoops to get to where we were because, with this old friend of ours, Melissa Jarbo, who brought this to us, who brought Rocco to us and stuff, her husband, was shot over in Afghanistan. He died here in the States. He was in the hospital for like a year, and then his body just shut down. But we were going right for Washington D.C. and the veterans, right? Just before we got to know everybody, and every time we stepped up a step, they put another step on the ladder, and finally it got so bad. I looked at Sid and I said, "Okay, brother, I think we exhausted out all measures here. As much as I did not want to let it go." I said, there's nothing we can do, Sid. And it was driving us nuts, right? He's like, I just want 25, 30 patients to take for free. I want to help. We want to get them away from the VAs and stuff. I said, I don't know if it's going to happen, bro. And he stayed persistent on it. It was just getting to be a lot. And by the grace of God, we went in another direction. Rocco was part of the team. We grabbed Nick Kay, and then everybody started coming up. My guy Adam Downs, Blackwater, opened up the door for us over there. I knew him since he was a young kid. I was friends with his father. And once that happened, and they seen that where our hearts were, and we really wanted to help our veterans out and taking care of them on the pricing and everything. Like Sid said, it's the hard world to get into, especially when you got two knuckleheads that didn't serve. And I remember one time at the Blackwater thing, one of the guys said, "Mel, how come you're so passionate about the military and you didn't serve?" I said, "Well, my father, I told him the story, Korean War, everybody served in my family, but me, I took that other direction, right?" I said, "So, we want to give back." And that was the same thing he said. He goes, "We want to, you guys defend our freedoms. You guys are what makes us be able to do what they do, our troops and stuff." So, I take great pride in it for us to be welcome into that world. It's amazing.
And the timing was amazing too, right? So if I tried to get in with the military when I first started Core Medical, it wouldn't have worked out because I didn't have the financial resources to do what I do now. There's 3 stages of business. I say that, oh shit stage when you start it, am I gonna be able to freaking feed my family? And then stage number 2 is, all right, I'm paying my bills and my staff's like hanging in there. And then I say this all the time, and now we're in this stage where it's like we're just educating people, right? And through that like soft education, people see what we're really about. Like, we're not pushy. Like, whether you use us or somebody else, great. Just get your fucking blood work done, right? And the timing was like where Core just like was taking off through the roof, so I could kind of slow down a little bit and take my time and kind of figure out the right direction, because you only really got one chance with that community.
No, you got half a chance, and if you screw it up, you're done.
You're done.
You are blacklisted.
You're
man.
done.
Yeah,
you're done.
because it spreads like wildfire.
It does.
Dave freaking said it's like 140 patients in like a month and a half. He's still active, and it was like, dude, what the fuck? And then Nick Kay started, and then it was just like, oh my god! And then all of a sudden, now we're like the household name for everybody, from a veteran who's 75 years old to that dude that's just starting out. And it's been wild. And I tell people this all the time: the gratitude is fucking insane. Like, if I could just have military patients, I said this before, my civilians, I love you guys all, but the gratitude is like, there's no fucking shitheads. No. We don't deal with anyone, no arrogance.
Yeah.
Because the reality of it is that they realize that we're here to freaking help.
Them, yeah.
I mean, what has it done for you? I mean,
it's absolutely changed my life, and to hit on a topic that you just brought up, I don't see the peacocking around here from any of your guys, that if anybody in that realm could peacock, it would be them, and they don't, man. There's no egos.
Yeah,
We're all here, or I say we. I believe, I've
You're on
worked
the team,
myself
bro.
into the
Absolutely
team.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You are. You're right. Where you are.
But we're a cohesive unit that's all looking out for each other. It's not who's better than who. It's who can I help today.
Exactly.
And that's something that's so special about you guys is we hear it all the time. Well, I wish I could have served. Well, brother, not everybody can serve. We still need assets back here in the States
Yeah.
to have the United States, right? We need to have people back here that are running operations while we're off in third world shithole countries doing what we do best, and then after that, what happens after? Well, we all need to come together, and that's something that you guys are doing. Is you are bringing all facets of the military, law enforcement, first responders, civilians, everybody together for one common goal. And I tell you what, that goal, your goal, Sid, in my book, you've reached, man.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
You threw that spark in your mind, through both of you guys working as hard as you guys probably could have just broke from the glass down, man, and jumped in there, but you didn't. You put the work in every freaking day, in and out, because you had a purpose. You knew what you wanted to do, and God forbid anybody get in your way. And I tell you what, the dividends it has paid to not only me, my son.
I love Little Man.
Yeah, he's cool.
It was cool because, in the 6 years that we really, it's been 6 years now since we started our military journey, through, Melissa Jarboe introducing us to that part, and watching it organically grow. And I just remember sitting back and Sid's like, okay, man, you got these dates open? And I'm like, that's 3 days. What are we doing? We're gonna go to this state. We're gonna speak with them for our military, for the veterans. I got them days open, and it just to watch it back, last year after in South Carolina after the event, when I was looking around and Sid's mom was there, I call him, it's like my mother. We're looking around and I'm like, man, I looked at him and I'm like, wow, 6 years later, bro, and here we are, and look at all the amazing people that we have got on this journey with us, that we did this. And I'm like, man, if we could have, we could have quit and went a different direction because things were, getting harder. I said with the, getting in with the military, and we stayed the course, and it's just amazing. We see now Little Man hits me up in the morning and says, Mr. Mel, can I pray with you? Our Father who art in heaven.
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome. Really?
Yeah, he sends me videos.
He does, yeah.
That's sick. Good.
He loves him some Mr.
Yes,
Mohawk Mel.
yeah,
That's
Mr. Mohawk
what he calls him.
Yeah,
But
it's just amazing
That's great,
the
too.
family that we've been able to be a part of and organically put together.
So what are you doing now?
well, I'm the owner of a company called MyOFP, which in the military and the Marine Corps, it stood for my own fucking program.
Okay.
But I kind of had to change that to go into the business world. So it stands for my own found purpose. And what we're doing is, we have our gear, apparel, our supplements. I'm working a lot with Cody Alford's wife, Stephanie, doing all organic supplements. And then, but it's just a means to an end. And what I mean by that is we are pushing into the training realm and the mentoring realm of taking, and this was the original concept of taking military, law enforcement, first responders, and basically anybody really that feels that their past job or their past life, if you will, there's certain times, and I'm sure Mel can attest to it, that things happen in your life, man, and it completely changes it, right? Your life will never be the same,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
And you try to hold on to that old life, and you just go down and down the drain with it, And how do I know? Because I was there, man. I went from the Marine Corps and then volunteering as a firefighter and working as a medic part-time while I was in the Marine Corps, and then contracting and then training. And man, until my son was born, that was my entire life was, nonstop go. And I just felt like I didn't have a purpose anymore outside of my son. You know, I kind of turned my son into my purpose. And Cody and I had a talk about that one day, and he said, well, you know, that's good, man, but God forbid something happened to your son. What are you going to go back to your old ways? And I thought that was kind of harsh, but not. I mean, that's Cody. He triggers you, man, into pulling out what you really want.
Yeah.
And what he was getting at with that is, I need to rebuild my purpose and start living for myself, and in a way that my son can look up and really hope to emulate later on in his life. And you know, I won't go into it because there's still some proceedings going on, but his mother and I are not together, and he has had a very rough go at it. He was not legally, but he was taken from me twice, and that really created a void in him, you know. So when he got back to Dad, it was like, you know, Dad.
Yeah.
And he's young enough, and I keep hearing that excuse, you know, he's young, he'll bounce back, he's malleable. Well, his brain's still developing. You know, he's still able to feel, man. You know,
How old is he now?
He just turned 9, man.
Okay, yeah.
He just turned 9,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through the ringer a few times. You know, the hardest thing for me was going to bed at night without my daughter in the house. It was hard as fuck, you know, because I was used to it for so long. She was young, and I'm super protective, you know. And, you know, Jada is now 16, and I just really took, I couldn't control a lot there, right? So I just kind of took a backseat to it and just acted right, and was always there for her, and called her every day, told her I loved her. Dude, now all she wants to do is hang out with Dad, and she's 16.
Yeah.
You know, she
You guys
wants.
got a great relationship.
It's unbelievable. She's the best. She's
Yeah.
great, and she's a good decision maker. And
You know, it changes you. I mean, Juliet's what? How old now?
she's 4.
She's 4. So you know, prior to him having Juju, you know, 4 years ago, he was still ripping and running a little bit, but then watching him have Juliet and changed him around even more now, because now he's older in life. You know, like he said, Jada's 16. My daughter's 38. I got a 16-year-old grandbaby and a 9-year-old grandbaby, so much different. You know, my daughter is always like, geez, Dad, you know, you weren't like that with me. And I'm like, well, I was never around, right? You know, running the Hells Angels and stuff. So, you know, we appreciate that as we get older, and to see that. And with you, with the little man, and how you are so hands-on with him. Sid does this all day long, goes home. I always say, me and John, his brother-in-law, John Bernthal, we got a funny thing. We say, Sid's not a mean guy. He's just not a nice guy, right? Sometimes, you know, when it comes to business, you know, we laugh, and, you know, he's strict with business. He's business all day. But when he goes home, when he's with his girls and his family and Jackie, it's a different Sid. You know what I mean? It's the family man Sid. So for me, watching to see that, because, you know, much older than him, and getting to see that. But it's amazing how our little ones bring that out of us, right? And make us appreciate where we're at and what this journey has brought to us.
The best part about that whole situation is that you can only control what you do.
Correct.
That's the best part about it, right? So if you're holding yourself accountable, bro, it'll be fucking rainbows and butterflies at the end. Maybe not rainbows and butterflies, but it'll be good. And you know, that kid's gonna grow up, and I promise you this: if you stay on that positive track, he's gonna be like, my dad was my life. He was my rock. He's gonna, you know, you're gonna get all those amazing things said about you. And I mean, my daughter didn't speak to me for almost 3 months when Jackie got pregnant with Juliet, because her mother decided to say that, you know, she wasn't good enough. I needed another kid, you know, and then
I remember
and
that,
that was
yeah.
that. And she didn't speak to her for 3 months, and I was a mess. And I had a lot of support, and they were like, dude, don't worry, she'll come back around. She'll come back around. And sure enough, harder than ever did she come back around. So, I mean, but listen, man, I really appreciate you coming down, dude. You're unbelievable. We're so grateful for you. Amazing donor for our event. All Hands on Deck shows up a day early. What can I help you with? Setting up the stage, doing everything in the world at service to others. And that's really what it's about on the back nine for me, is like helping others and doing the best they can. So, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate both of you. And,
Awesome. Yeah, we love you.
That was an
Sydney.
amazing fucking podcast, dude. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you. Mel,
Right.
love you, bro.
Yeah, love you, bro.